Hey there, Sparkrock community. We're back with another release for Sparkrock Ed HRP version 5.2.2630. This release brings a set of payroll and approval enhancements, most of them aimed at giving your teams more flexibility, clear visibility, and fewer manual workarounds. In this video, we'll walk you through faster and error-free accumulator setup with smarter drop-down filtering, a new flexible approval mode for absences in timesheets, configurable FTE-based deductions for any bargaining unit, board letterhead and date options on email notifications, and selected deletion and dollar amount visibility in the pay input cleanup utility. So let's get started. First of all, we've made accumulator scheduling setup faster and a lot less error prone. Accumulator scheduling uses two fields together, the entity type, which is the accumulator category, and the entity code, which is the specific code within that category. Previously, the entity code dropdown showed every code, no matter which entity type you'd selected. So that made it easy, especially for newer administrators, to pick an invalid combination that would cause errors down the line. Well, now on the accumulator scheduling page, the entity code dropdown filters automatically based on your entity type that you choose. So select an entity type, and then you'll only see the codes that are valid for it. If you haven't selected an entity type yet, the entity code dropdown will simply prompt you to choose one first. The same filtering applies on the group-level accumulator schedule screen, so setup behaves consistently whether you're working at the employee level or the group level. And don't worry about your existing records, any valid combinations already in the system are preserved and display exactly as they did before. The filtering only applies to new selections. Next, we've added more flexibility for supervisors to see and approve absence and timesheet records. Up until now, each employee group could use only one approval model for web absence and timesheet approval, either location-based, so the school principal or the site head approves for anyone who worked at that location, or group-based, so a designated group supervisor approves for all employees in the group. Now, some groups, supply teacher groups are a common example, sometimes need both. So we've introduced a new both flexible approval mode. To turn it on, a board administrator enables the new flexible approval mode under System, then Settings, then Site Configuration. Once it's enabled, a new option, Be Both Flexible, becomes available on the Web Absence Approval Type and Web Timesheet Approval Type dropdowns for each employee group in Employee Group Maintenance. When a group is set to both flexible, both the location-authorized supervisor and the group-authorized supervisor can see and approve records for that group from the supervisor approval screens. Whoever acts first resolves the transaction. The second supervisor doesn't need to do anything. And if you don't enable the feature in site configuration, nothing changes. Your existing location-based and group-based groups behave exactly as they do today. This release also makes FTE-based deductions far more flexible. Previously, the FTE-based deduction algorithm applied a single fixed threshold, full above 0.5 FTE or prorated at or below it. That rule was tied to one specific bargaining unit, which meant employees in other units could end up with incorrect deduction amounts, and administrators had to override those amounts manually every pay cycle. Well, now for deduction codes that use the FTE-based algorithm, the deduction codes maintenance screen includes an FTE rounding method selector with two options: none or custom. If none is selected, the employee's actual FTE is applied directly. With custom, you define your own FTE rounding grid, a set of FTE ranges, each with its own rounding mode and factor. During the pay run, the system looks up each employee's FTE against the grid to determine the deduction. This lets you configure FTE proportional deductions for any bargaining unit without needing per employee overrides. To make validation easier, the non-statutory deduction screen now shows two read-only fields for FTE-based records: full deduction amount, which is the rate at full FTE, and prorated deduction amount, which reflects the employee's effective FTE. The prorated amount updates immediately when you change the override FTE field, so you can confirm the numbers on screen. Your existing deduction codes are fully protected. Amounts for employees on existing codes stay exactly the same unless you choose to configure a grid of your own. You can now send email notifications with your board's letterhead. Email notification profiles control the content and recipients of automated employee notifications. Until now, there was no way to add board branding such as the logo, address, or the date to those emails, even though letterhead already appears on other printed documents like pay stubs. This release adds 2 new yes-no controls to the email notification profile: include board letterhead and insert date. When include board letterhead is set to yes, outgoing emails for that profile include your board's logo and address at the top of the message. When insert date is set to yes, the current date is added to that header area as well. There's also a print option on the notification window, so you can preview or save the letterhead before sending. Both toggles are turned off by default, including all your existing profiles, so nothing changes until you decide to turn them on. Finally, we've made some helpful improvements to the pay input cleanup utility. First, the grid now includes a per pay amount column showing the dollar value for every record. That means you can identify the records you're looking for right in the utility without jumping over to a separate pay input screen to cross-reference amounts. Second, you can now delete records selectively. Each row has a checkbox, and once you've selected one or more records, a new Delete Selected button lets you remove just those rows. This is a big help when an employee has both system-generated records and manually entered adjustments. You can clear out the system records while keeping your own work intact. To keep things clear, the original Delete button is now labeled Delete All Records. So both actions appear side by side, and the scope of each is obvious before you click. We've also turned on column level filters for the grid, making it easier to narrow down large result sets before you select. And that's a wrap on Sparkrock Ed HRP version 5.2.2630. This release speeds up accumulator setup and prevents invalid entries with smarter drop-down filtering. It lets both location level and group level supervisors approve absences and timesheets for the same groups. It delivers configurable FTE proportional deductions for any bargaining unit. It adds board letterhead and date options to email notifications, and gives payroll staff dollar amount visibility and selective deletion in the pay input cleanup utility. So be sure to review the full release notes, and thank you so much for watching.